Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to introduce myself, introduce REACH Behavior Development Center, and talk a little bit about what we do every day, which is ABA, or Applied Behavior Analysis. So quick introduction on me. My name is Muna. I have actually a banking background, but I switched careers and started doing therapy, a career I found to be a lot more fulfilling. And it's been fantastic. We've been able to change many, many lives and seen many, many happy tears. So it's quite a rewarding career, and it's so wonderful to be able to impact so many families here in Bahrain. So that's a little bit about me and a little bit about us, Reach Behavior and Development Center. I'm going to go through that, but basically we are a behavior and development center. We've been around for a year, and we've just opened a second branch. So just kind of to meet the growing needs of ABA in Bahrain. And so that's really fantastic as well. So we thought it would be a great time to kind of take stock of the lay of the land, what's going on, different professionals that would require our services, you know, professionals that we can collaborate with, schools, that sort of thing, to help as many kids as possible. So we're going to go through a little bit about Reach. So, what do we do every day? We promote a positive change through ABA, giving children a chance to live life to their fullest potential. So that's what we do on a day-to-day basis, is we improve the quality of life of kids with special needs and their families. So it's really, really great. We're also extremely proud to be able to say that we are the first behavioral health center of excellence in Bahrain. So it's a distinction that we've worked towards, and an accreditation that we're very, very proud of. And it's something that needs to be earned. So we went through a long, laborious process in order to get it, but it means that we are providing therapy at the gold standard, and that's what we're aiming for, basically. Our approach, what we do every day, we do intensive, individualized therapy sessions. What that means is it's tailor-made to the child and what they would need. And all our programs here are supervised by board-certified behavior analysts, of which there are a few on the island. At Reach, we currently have 3 board-certified behavior analysts and a couple in training. So we have a strong team, and we're informed by assessments, priorities of parents. So we look at the data, we see what we think the child would need, but we also obviously take the parents' priorities in mind as well. And then it's just kind of consistent feedback between the clinic, the home, schools. We work kind of like a triangle just to make sure that everything is being generalized outside of Reach. We do progress reports, daily communication logs, and daily individualized data sheets, so that we are always monitoring the children's progress. And of course, we have a very compassionate team. All our therapists here share the same common values, and we all want to kind of work towards seeing the kids do the best that they can. So who do we serve? A lot of the kids that we see are on the autism spectrum. Some go to mainstream schools, others aren't at school at all. So it really is a spectrum. We see kids with ADHD, Down syndrome, PDD, behavioral difficulties, just general language and speech disorders or communication delays, learning disorders. And we offer a lot of academic support to children who have learning disorders and motor difficulties, gross motor difficulties, fine motor. So we have an occupational therapist on board who's really fantastic with that. So our services, it basically spans across a wide range of services. We do early intervention, but we also see older kids as well. We currently, the oldest child that we're seeing at the minute is 19, and our youngest is around 2. So we do early intervention as well as home services. So we see a lot of kids at the clinic, but we also do home services as well. A lot of parent training, social skills. Social skills is a big thing that we do. We do things online. We obviously had to adapt to COVID, and the pandemic and everything that was surrounding that. So we had to go online for a long time, and that was great because we became very proficient in delivering services online. Not our preferred method of therapy. However, it can be done. Shadow training at schools, caregiver training, evaluations, assessments, general family and community support. That's what we're here for. The classroom support for the schools as well. So that's basically a little bit about Reach and who we are. I'd like to take you a little through ABA and what that is as well. So if you're asking yourself, but what's ABA? What does that even mean? A lot of people think, okay, you're doing behavior therapy, so that means the child is aggressive, right? That's behavior. No, so that's not behavior. Child throwing a tantrum is, or being aggressive is in fact a behavior, but that's not all there is to it. Asking someone to do something is a behavior. A person engaging in repetitive behaviors is a behavior. Somebody just posting on social media, that's a behavior. So, and what we're looking at really is, why do people do what they do? So we're just constantly analyzing, why are people doing, or why are children doing what they're doing? So ABA is the science of behavior. And behavior really refers to everything people say and do. So everything a dead man can't do is a behavior, okay? So saying hello, that's a behavior. Walking down the street, that's a behavior. Asking for water, all this sort of stuff. These are all behaviors. And behavior analysis, or what we do as behavior analysts, is we're looking at the environment in which a behavior occurs. And we're looking at what happens prior to the behavior and what the behavior in itself looks like, and then the events following the behavior. And we're analyzing that, and we're looking at that, and we're providing intervention based on those factors. Okay, so ABA is applied behavior analysis, and it's shown to be the most effective intervention for children with autism. And but you can use it for everybody. You really use it for everybody. It's not really limited to children with autism, and it's really the science of learning and behavior. And it's, in a nutshell, what we're doing with ABA is we're increasing the behaviors that we want to see, and we're decreasing the behaviors that we don't want to see. Okay. So in other words, ABA is a science dedicated to helping teach individuals the skills they need to live a more independent life. So that's what we're looking for. That's our ultimate goal, is to make kids as independent as possible. So what can ABA be used for? Almost anything. If it is a behavior, and if it can be observed, if we can see it, then we can either increase it or decrease it by using the principles of behavior. Okay, and that would apply to communication, that applies to social skills, that applies to academic skills, play skills, adaptive living skills such as toileting, dressing, eating, all that sort of stuff are things that we can address with ABA. So who will benefit from ABA, right? Kids on the spectrum, developmental disabilities, ADHD, we talked about this a little bit, OCD, brain injuries, dementia, Alzheimer's. Really anybody can benefit from ABA. And we work, like I mentioned, in a variety of settings, which is the school, work, clinic, home, out in the community, of course, as well. And as I mentioned just a minute ago, ABA is the most common and most evidence-based method to treat autism. Typically developing children, so kids who aren't on the spectrum, they learn without our intervention, right? So that's fine. So they're okay. But children with autism learn much less easily from the environment and on their own. They have the potential to learn, absolutely. So they can learn, but it takes a very structured environment for them to learn. Okay, so they need to be equipped. We need to be able to give them the right tools in order to succeed, where a typical child may just acquire some of these skills naturally, but kids on the spectrum don't. So ABA is really about how to set up the environment to enable children to learn. And ABA incorporates a variety of effective teaching strategies, which we're going to go into as well. So some of the ABA strategies that we use, and I'm not going to go into these in great detail, but I just wanted to touch on them to show you that we use a wide range of interventions and strategies to help kids, to motivate kids. So preference assessments, functional communication training, visual schedules, incidental teaching, which means teaching in the natural environment, discrete trial training or discrete trial teaching, task analyses, functional behavior assessments, response interruption and redirection. These are all different approaches that we use to increase behaviors or decrease them. So we talked a little bit about environment, so I just want to kind of show you these two pictures. Okay, so look at these environments, and if you can picture a child in that kind of space on the left, you would see it would be very difficult for them to learn. So what we do is we change the environment to make it a lot more structured for them so that they are able to learn, such as the picture on the right. Okay, so they're modifying and changing the environment to suit them. However, one size does not fit all. So if you met one person with autism, you met one person with autism, right? Every child or person is absolutely different from the next. Okay, so they all have their own specific skills, own specific strengths, and own specific deficits. So we look at individual skills, individual areas of need, individual communication systems. Some kids, use signs. Some kids, we push vocals. Some kids use picture exchange systems. So it really is very individualized, depending on prerequisites that they need, or what the parents think they'll be able to do, or what we think they'll be able to do. So it really just depends on a lot of things. And then, of course, we're looking at individual interests and motivation. We can't give everybody a high five, or we can't give everybody verbal praise. That's not what, that's not everybody's personal preference, right? Very much like us, right? Some of us really like being somebody telling us in a crowd, "Wow, great job! You did an amazing job." We'd be like, "Wow, yeah, thanks." And then somebody else might shy away from that and think, "Oh, I really didn't like that." So it really just depends on the person, what they like. So really looking at individuals and that sort of thing. So how does ABA work? We look at the antecedent, or what happens before the behavior. We look at the behavior itself, and we look at the consequence, or what happens after the behavior. Okay, and some examples of challenging behaviors that we see that we use this method with is tantrums, aggression, social withdrawal, non-compliance, self-stimulatory behaviors, SIB, or self-injurious behaviors such as head banging and hand biting. So what do we want to do? We want to reduce these behaviors, right? How do we do that? We focus on the why. So why does this child choose to engage in that behavior? So most of the time, challenging behavior can be seen as a form of communication. So all behavior really is communication. All behavior, and it occurs for a reason. That a lot of moms say to us, he just started doing that. There was no reason. There was no reason. There is a reason. There's always a reason. So we just need to find out what that reason is, and then we can tailor make the intervention based on the function or the reason that the intervention, the behavior is happening. Okay, and there's different reasons children engage in problem behavior. It could be escape. So it could be that they, I don't want to do this, it could be attention, either negative or positive attention. It could be access to something. So, I want the iPad, or I want that chips or something. Or it could be automatic or self-stimulatory. So, they just engage in those behaviors when they're on their own. They don't need, there's no other factors in the environment that are manipulating or triggering those behaviors. So they're just doing, if you just look at them on the camera, they're still engaging in those behaviors. And then we see, okay, it might be more of a self-stimulatory function. So functions of behavior reduce challenging or socially undesirable behavior. And if we know why the behaviors can occur, then we know what we need to do. Then we know how to react to them. Okay, so if we know why that child is doing something, then we know what's the correct way to deal with it. So a lot of parents say, my child is doing this, what do I do? right? We can't answer that question. We need to understand a lot more. Why is a child engaging in that behavior? What has been done in the past? There's a lot that needs to go into it. It's not just a blank answer, because the answer will change depending on why the child is engaging in those sorts of behaviors. And then what we want to do is we want to teach replacement skills. Okay, so if a child is learning that they need to scream when somebody goes into their room, and they want to escape, we want to teach them a replacement skill. So instead of screaming, what can they do instead? So behaviors will only continue to occur if they are being reinforced. It's a big part of what we do. Reinforcement. We always want to reinforce everything. So here we have the same behavior that I mentioned 3 times, flopping to the floor, crying, but the function is always different. So, first time child wants food, the second time the child wants to go, and the third time the parent is not interacting with the child, they might be on the phone. So because of that, we are looking at new behaviors based on the function. Okay, so we're saying, okay, so he wants food, he's crying. Instead of crying, what can we teach you? We can teach you to ask for food, right? So we're always looking at the function and what we can do to replace that with a more socially acceptable behavior, but communicating the same message, okay? So like I mentioned earlier, we work on a lot of skills, training, different skills, communication skills, receptive and expressive language skills, increasing intending behavior, which is a big thing at school, fine motor skills, gross motor skills, play skills, social skills, learning appropriate ways to get attention, weighting is a big thing that we teach, and of course, most importantly, to generalize it across different environments. And then reinforcement, we just talked about that, is the most important part of what we do. And basically what that's saying is if we want to see a behavior reoccur, then we want to reinforce it. And if we reinforce it, that behavior is most likely to be repeated. So what that means is, for example, if somebody stayed late to work on a report and I gave him, $100 and said, here you go, here's $100. You did a really good job staying late and doing that report. That person might be like, wow, the next time I have a report, I'm gonna just stay. I'm gonna stay after work. I'm gonna work hard on my report because I got $100 last time, right? I got rewarded for that. So that's what we want to do. But if we just kind of ignore the behavior, likely that the guy won't stay after work. He's gonna be like, you know what? Why am I staying here till 8 p.m. doing this report? What's the point? So really behavior principles can be used in multiple environments and even in our day-to-day lives. Okay, so we want to shape the behaviors we want to see. So that's why we're using reinforcement. Okay. And then, like I mentioned earlier, it's important to identify what motivates each child, because every child is different. Okay, so somebody might respond to money, but somebody might not. Somebody might respond to verbal praise, somebody might not. Somebody might respond to tickles, but somebody might not. So we're looking at all those sorts of things. And then how do we do it? We pair appropriate desired behavior with something the person wants. So if somebody wants, appropriate behavior can be anything from, going to work on time. If somebody comes into work on time this whole week, I'm like, wow, you're amazing. I'm going to send an email out, then somebody's gonna be like, wow, that's amazing, and might do it again. So really just pairing that with reinforcement. So reinforcers are individual. So we talked about that as well. And here are examples of samples of reinforcers. So you could see somebody might be reinforced by the trampoline, somebody might be reinforced by bubbles, iPad. It's all really individualized. So a lot of people ask us, so what does an ABA program look like? That's fantastic. That all sounds fantastic, but what do you guys do actually? But it's hard because no, therapy session looks the same. We work on a wide variety of skills, so it changes from person to person. But what I can tell you is that it is always, or most of the time, is implemented by a behavior therapist, and it's overseen by a board certified behavior analyst, or BCBA. And then we teach parents how to transfer those skills outside of the clinic. Okay. So it's very important for us to always involve the family and to always involve schools as well if we need to. So so this is basically an example of what an ABA therapy session could look like. They're super fun. So we try, kids learn through play. They learn best through play. So you see here the kid on the top left. That's something that we might be doing. We might be working on teaching toothbrushing or another daily living skill. We might be teaching social skills, so putting different groups together. We might be teaching this child in the bottom left, some more daily living skills like cooking. That bottom middle is somebody at the table teaching different skills as well. And we could work on expressive language, receptive language, imitation, all those sorts of things at the table. And then again, just out in the community and doing different community activities. So people say, okay, great. So how much ABA is enough, right? So what we're looking at is, we don't say, okay, you need 40 hours of ABA per week. What we're looking at is effectiveness, not intensiveness. So we understand that insurance does not cover ABA here. So we want to make sure that we are prioritizing parents and goals and, the most important skills for the child to learn that we can build on, and doing it in a smaller, most cost-effective way. But making sure that it's enough for children, for it to be consistent, and for parents to see progress. So parents' role, crucial to the process. Obviously, parents know their children best, and parents know their children's personal preferences, what they can do and can't do, right? So parents have that insight, so it's really important that we're working very closely with parents, and then obviously generalizing those skills outside of our sessions, because ABA really should be done 24 hours a day and not just an hour or two at a clinic. So we do that online, or we do it face-to-face. It really just depends on the needs of the families. And then once parents can do it, they can kind of continue to implement this knowledge and practice it throughout their child's development as they grow up. So a lot of our kids here, we go, "Hi, Ahmed," and then he goes, "Hi, Mana." But once he leaves and somebody says, "Hi, Ahmed," he just looks away. So did the child actually learn the skill? No. So we don't actually move on from teaching one skill to the next until we are absolutely sure that the child can do it across multiple people, that they can do it across in different environments, that we're teaching at different times of the day. So all these things are things that we're looking at to ensure the child has mastered that skill. And if the child is learning that skill at a table, that they should also be able to do it naturally as well. The best thing about it is data. So, we are data analysts, and that's what we're looking at all the time. It informs us about why children are acting the way they do. Is there a certain time of day that things are happening? We're always looking at that sort of thing, and looking at data points, looking at trends in behavior. We're looking at all those sorts of things. It helps us identify reinforcers. If we see motivation is going down, or the child is not performing as well, then we're saying, okay, maybe something was wrong that day with the reinforcement. So we're looking at all those sorts of things, and tells us how quickly kids are acquiring different skills as well. And it also tells us if an intervention is effective in reducing challenging behavior. So if we implement an intervention, we say, this is what you need to do, and then we don't see that the behavior is decreasing, then we're going to say, okay, let's look at this again, right? We're going to be in here and trying something else. So it's really, really important part of what we do every day. And what do we take data on? We take it on frequency, duration, intensity, latency. So, what that means is we tell a kid, okay, you throw the ball, and if it takes a child 10 seconds to do it, we might want to decrease that to 2 seconds. So, that sort of thing as well. So you might be saying to yourself, okay, great, fantastic. I kind of have an overview of what's going on. I kind of understand it, but, which child would be suitable for ABA? So my answer to that is the child having difficulty learning? Are they having problems acquiring new skills, communicating, experiencing problem behaviors that are getting in the way of learning and everyday functioning, that they're proven to be barriers? Then an ABA-based approach could help them, definitely. So facts, it works. We have the evidence to prove it, see it all the time. Parents can do it. We focus on teaching meaningful skills and behaviors. It needs to make sense for the family. It needs to make sense for the child. If you're teaching a 17-year-old how to say cat says meow, that might not be very meaningful for them. Increasing flexibility, you can see it working because we're constantly reviewing the data. Independence is what we're working towards. We use proactive strategy, and we're looking to reduce problem behavior always. So we look at why behaviors occur. We think of, is there a better way to communicate that same thing? So instead of crying, could we ask, is there a better way to do it? We teach a better response, a more appropriate response. Then we reinforce that response. So that's what we do every day. So thank you so much for participating today, for coming, for listening, for getting to know me, getting to know Reach, and getting to know, what we do every day and how we help the kids. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, I'd be very, very happy to answer them.